Welcome to the Cash Confident Podcast. I'm Bri Sedano, your fearless host, personal finance expert, and the visionary behind the revolutionary Cash Confident community. Get ready to embark on an electrifying journey where we redefine the rules of money and empower women to harness the immense power to craft the life they truly, truly desire. This podcast is the ultimate resource, meticulously crafted for women who are ready to unleash their financial prowess and embrace a life of abundant success. We leave no stone unturned as we delve into the depths of money management, mindset mastery, and the undeniable influence of emotions on your financial decisions. Prepare to rise above the societal limitations and break free from the chains that have held you back as we equip you with the tools and knowledge to make bold, confident choices with your cash. We believe that true financial power begins with knowledge, and that is exactly what we deliver. So buckle up, my fierce and ambitious friends, as we embark on this transformative journey to becoming cash confident together. Oh, hello, everyone. Today, I have my first guest on the Cash Confident Podcast, and I'm so excited because Miss Anna Marcolin is freaking brilliant. She is a psychotherapist and life coach, and I love her work, and she is just smart as a whip, and she's going to be here today to help us to just kind of uncover and unpack some of the connections between money and body image. And I've been looking forward to this talk for such a long time. So, Anna, thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
It's my pleasure. All right, so tell us how you got started. Tell us, like your origin story.
Okay, so I have been a counselor / psychotherapist I'm dating myself when I tell you all this, for almost 30 years. So I've been doing this for quite a while. And back, probably 25 years ago, I started working in eating disorders. And it's funny because I never wanted to work with individuals who were suffering from eating disorders because there was an eating disorder in my family with one of my siblings when I was in high school. And it sort of wreaked havoc on my wonderful sibling, but it wreaked havoc on our family. And I thought, I never want to deal with eating disorders again. But lo and behold, for reasons of needing to get a job and needing to get a job fast, and it being the only job that was offered to me at the time, there I was back in a partial hospitalization program working with mostly teenagers, females, and women in their 20s with eating disorders. It ended up being a specialty of my practice that I loved. I loved working with teenagers and young women around eating disorders, specifically anorexia and bulimia, and the mix of the two. We call it EDNOS. It's an eating disorder, non otherwise specified. So I ended up doing that for years. I started a private practice. And when I left the hospital that I was working at, everybody came with me. All of my patients followed me to my practice. And so I ended up specifically working in eating disorders for many years. And now I'm only 30 years old at this time, 28, 29, 30. And I only saw, at that time, teenagers. And I did it for many, many years. And then from that, as I moved out of specifically doing counseling around anorexia and bulimia, I started to see people who didn't have eating disorders. They didn't meet criteria they didn't have a clinical diagnosis of an eating disorder, but I started to see people who came to me for other problems in their lives. Maybe there was some trauma, maybe there were relationship problems, but it seemed almost everybody was dealing with body image issues. And body image issues are different from a full-blown eating disorder. But I was seeing a lot of disordered eating, a lot of people that were really up in their head about how they looked. And so my practice did a lot of a pivot away from eating disorders into my seeing now women of all ages with body image issues. And I became known for that in the community. I was someone that was, my practice was going very well and it was word of mouth referrals to me that you need to see this woman. This is what she does. And so I still to this day do it, and I do it. I provide therapy around it, but that's more around a diagnosis. And I provide coaching. And so a bulk of my practice is coaching women with body image issues.
I love that so much. So in my work, I get to read people's transactions. And so I know some of the things that a lot of other people don't know about people. Because once you read somebody's transactions, it is the depths of their soul. And I work with women in business, and I can see some ways that body image shows up in the expenditures and it shows up in opportunity cost. So in your professional opinion, looking at it from the other side, not just from the financial side, what are you seeing in your practice as the connection between the money and the body image?
I get people who come to me who have, by the time they come to me for coaching around body image, they have spent thousands of dollars on diet programs, thousands. And whether it be, you name it. I mean, keto, paleo, but they bought these programs with the promise that they're going to lose all this weight and they're just going to be like this, look like their badass, maybe 15 or 18-year-old self again. And the problem is they're not looking at mindset, and these coaching programs don't go underneath and really look at what is really going on here. And so what happens? They gain the weight back. And by the time they come to me, they're frustrated as hell. Because why has a weight not stayed off? I spent all this money and all this time and all this energy on. I was telling you before we started recording, I have a more recent coaching client who is telling me I've spent thousands of dollars on protein bars and the whey protein powder that this program that I bought into wanted me to use. So she bought their whey protein because that was the only one. She's like, I lost weight. I lost 25 to 30 pounds, but here I am a year later. It's all back. And she goes, if I look at one more bar, I swear I will throw up. That's not sustainable. And that's what's frustrating for the women who come and see me. And I feel their frustration because they've spent so much money hoping for this amazing return, but this return that will last them for years, if not decades. And it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. I see the same kinds of things, actually. I see a lot of clients spending a lot of money on even just some of the specialty diets, even just like the regular food and the specialty diets, when you're not, let's say, example, like eating carbs, your grocery bill goes up really substantially.
Does. Yes, it does. Yeah.
For things like that. And also it seems to me like there's a tremendous use of mental energy to keep up with anything that's really specific. That's not for not for medical reasons, but if I'm, really getting a lot of, like if I'm counting carbs, or if I'm counting my macros, or if I'm really counting a lot of things, it's just a lot of mental energy in addition to, it creates just like more like decision fatigue and things like that. Just like from nothing about the food itself. It's just like the constant mental load of carrying that.
I mean, that's what makes people quit, because there is a mental load. And you said it very well, that the energy expenditure on thinking it through. So I was a competitive triathlete for 20 years. And I share that with you because it's important, because I worked with a couple of sports dietitians because I had different things going on. I wasn't eating properly. What they don't talk about when you're an endurance athlete, what we don't realize in the beginning, is that you've got to have your nutrition has got to be like on par all the time, because you've got to be eating properly. With an endurance athlete, you need to be eating a ton of carbs, and then you've got to be, fueling yourself with protein for recovery. And I didn't know how to do any of that. I'd worked with registered dietitians for decades, but it was more around my clients and my patients who had eating disorders. So this was a kind of a different field of dietetics that I became the client. And something that was just really interesting for me is that, I had one dietitian that I used for, I think, 3 months, and then I fired her. Ended up finding another dietitian that I had for 3 years. She was amazing, and I still have contact with her now. She put me on this diet that, she took my BMI, my body fat. She took I had to go get tested for my basal metabolic rate of how much calories I burned in a 24-hour period for my age. It was this whole thing I had to go through. It was kind of fun doing it. It was interesting information to find out about very specifically what my body needed. And I just going through menopause, and I was an athlete and I saw all this weight come on, and it was slowing me down. I mean, I just was like, whoa, what the hell? What's going on? Where's this weight coming from? I was in perimenopause, in the early stages of menopause, which is very, very frustrating for many women. We're talking a lot more about it today in social media, thankfully, because we realize as women, we're not alone. So here I was doing all this swim, bike, run training for hours and hours at a time, and I'm watching all this weight come on. This dietitian put me on a program where I had to weigh my food. I had to meal prep every week. And I did it, but and I know how to do hard things, but let me tell you, Bree, it was so difficult. So long-winded answer to what you just said. I just couldn't understand. And it was good for me to do because for the first time in my life, I was in the shoes of my clients, the people who'd come to me who it wasn't working because I thought, I don't want to do this again. I had the stupid food scale. I mean, I'm not knocking if it works for you, but for me, it didn't work. I was weighing my chicken breast. I was weighing my meat. I was weighing my food every single day, every meal until I finally said to her, it's not working. I don't want to do this anymore. And I threw it out. It just wasn't sustainable for me, as I think it is for most people.
Yeah. I mean, I've done many, 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 many diets. And I'll tell you, I'm actually, I'm almost 40 and I'm just getting to the place where I just feel fine. I just feel good enough. I just feel beautiful. I just like, and and that's brand new for me. That's brand
Love
new. And
that.
even when I was like when I look back at my pictures from like when I was 20 and I thought for sure that I was just like so unattractive and so whatever, I'm like, oh my God.
That looks really good.
I was a goddess.
I know.
Oh, and I just see it different. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to waste my whole life looking back and then only seeing my beauty then. Like to me, it was like this thing. So how would somebody know when they listen, I have not talked to a single woman in my entire life, I don't think, that has had some sort of body image issue. So I'm like, how would you know that if you there's just the mental chatter. How would you know the difference between like the regular amount of noise that you have and something that's like an actual problem?
I think so you make a really good point, and I will say this to my clients. We talk about this is like daily conversation. Everybody has bad body image days. Everybody has. Like I feel pretty good. I've worked hard on my own mental game because it's a mental game when it comes to our body image. I've worked hard on it, and still I wake up some days and I'm like, God, I feel so fat. Or I was like, for me personally, like Nordstrom dressing rooms lighting is like, I know this now, so I avoid it at all costs. I'll buy clothes from Nordstrom's, take them home. I won't try them on. For some reason, the lighting in those dressing rooms just make me feel so bad about myself. It's weird. I think it's the mirrors, but it's not good for me. It will give me a bad body image day and it'll stay with me. I'll be in a bad mood. And I think that it's okay to acknowledge that we have bad body image days, or there's certain stores that, like, don't try the clothes on in those mirrors because you're not going to feel good about yourself. Go home, try them on in your own mirror. So that's a little side tip. That's okay. But if you find that most days you're just ripping on yourself, like you are being mean to yourself, that, it's one thing when you're like, I just saw I got a glimpse of myself and these pants don't fit me well. They're kind of tight and I don't feel good in them. Okay, that's okay. But the next day you're like, you know what? I'm like rocking it today. I love this outfit. I feel good. My hair is awesome. Yeah. I'm like, I love it. My nails are like on fleek. Like I look good. That's one thing. But if you're noticing that most days you're not saying good stuff to yourself, or you just can't find the positive, or at least a neutral statement to yourself about like, no, I don't feel amazing today, but I'm fine. It's good. I'm fine. If you can't do that, then you might want to seek consultation for yourself or get an outside person to come in and help you. Because I find that most women are walking around and they're feeling guilty and ashamed and they're not talking about it with anybody. There are people out there who can help you move past that. It can help you get a new mindset.
Yeah.
And it's work. It's work. I won't say it's not work. It's work. It's work to change that mindset around thinking of yourself differently.
Oh, no, I'm with you because I've been literally body image. It's not a thing that I generally talk about in my work. It's not generally a topic that I just get into much because I tend to talk about money. But from the time that I was 22 to probably the time that I was maybe 31-ish, I mean, I was taking phentermine. My doctor was prescribing me phentermine. I was hardly eating anything at all. And when I stopped doing it and I looked back, I was like, holy crap, man, I had both an addiction and an eating disorder that I did not give appropriate level of credit to the size of that problem. When I was in it. And it took me probably 5 years after I had finished that whole season of my life, to even look back and be like, oh my goodness, like it like actually hurt like I've had many days where I'm like so sad and remorseful at the way that I treated myself, and all of those years were also years where I was overworking, I was underpaid, I was underappreciated, and I was also in the early season of motherhood, right? So my kids were small. And so some of that is just that season of life, and I was working for a nonprofit at the time. So there's like a little extra overworked and underpaid. But I can't even tell you the amount of, I did Weight Watchers, I did the South Beach diet, I did.
Yep.
And now I'm just like confessing.
Diet, all these. Oh, you're confessing.
I don't like grapefruits. I never tried that. But do you remember there was a diet where you would eat cabbage soup for like
I
a
remember
week?
That one.
And it was, when you really think about it, you're like, there's probably 75 calories in that cabbage soup.
It's
actually pretty good.
It's pretty good, but it's ridiculous. I mean, I just would go crazy with my clients that coming in. So I never did those diets because I knew they were and with all due respect to you, Bree, I mean, I think because I was in the field of eating disorders, I saw these, clients who were coming in at that time to a program that I was running, and then coming into my office, we just know that they don't work. But people are desperate, excuse me, to lose the weight. And when they're not, they just are ripping themselves up and down and around the backside because the weight's not coming off. And I love what you just said about, we're so critical of ourselves. And then here the years go by and you look at a picture of yourself from 5-10 years ago, and I've done this too. And I'm like, I remember that day. And I'm thinking, damn, I looked good. But I remember that day. I kind of remember that day. I didn't want that picture taken. What was I talking about? I looked really good then, and I think they were so hard and critical. Women, we are critical of ourselves. We're hard on ourselves in so many ways. Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do with just the underlying energy underneath all of the ads that we see, which is basically there's something wrong with you. Like there's something wrong with you for having hair. There's something wrong with you for eating food. There's something like just the ad space and the marketing at women is just so caustic and aggressive. So where are some things that people like, if somebody was like, maybe this is an area that I could improve in. Like maybe this is not the way that I want to talk to myself. This is not the way I want to treat my body. What are some things what are some practical action steps to start working on seeing yourself differently and starting to let go of just a hard body image?
I think a couple things. Number one, I would ask you to look at your behaviors. And if you are continuing to be dieting, continuing to maybe you're overeating or you're undereating, I want you to look at what that's about for you. What is really going on? Because you said earlier, I was, little kids and I was, overworked and underpaid. That's about something. So what is that about for this, I mean, just using you as an example, but what is that about for you that we turn to our bodies and we get very critical of our bodies, or we will maybe overeat or binge? What is that about for you? Always ask yourself, go underneath the surface. It's really, we say this in eating disorder therapy, in the eating disorder world. We say this in the body image world. It's never about the food. And that's an absolute statement. And I don't use the word never often at all. But this time I do use it. It's never about the food. And I have clients say to me, no, Anna, it is about the food. Like, I want those Cheez-Its. Okay. Yeah. You want those Cheez-Its because something about the taste, the texture in your mouth, something about that is soothing to you. You're getting soothed by it. So I will go back to say, yes, it is still not about the Cheez-Its. It's about what the Cheez-Its are doing for you. It's about putting a salve on a wound that you're feeling. And so some people, it might be something that's just more surfacey, like, you know what? You know why I overeat, Anna? I'm bored. Okay, we can work with that. It's okay. You're bored? Not a problem. Let's talk about what that's about for you. Or some people say, no, I am overeating, or I'm not eating enough, or I'm trying to do all this clean eating. because I got stuff that goes back to my childhood. There's messaging that I heard from my mom and my dad about how I looked when I was 6 years old, and I never forgot it. Or I was bullied, and I heard this stuff when I was in middle school about the color of my hair or the way I acted, the boots I wore, or, the skinny girl or this like chubby girl. We have messaging that's deep inside of us that we are not always conscious of today in, the year we're in, 23 right now, that we are like, if you sat and you thought about it, you'd go, yeah, there is something there. I mean, okay. Truth be told, it probably isn't about the food. It is about this. It is about that. I'm lonely. I'm depressed. I'm anxious. And my clients come into me and they're like, Ann, I'm eating my feelings again. Okay. And I love that. Yeah. I've eaten my feelings. I think we all have, right?
I mean, maybe not every single person, but
many of us, right? Yeah. We can work with that.
I noticed that for years, every time that I was disappointed about something, I would make myself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, which is so funny because it's not even a sandwich that I'm like, wow, I should really have peanut butter and jelly. Like, it's all right. I'll have one. But when I started to notice that, like, I was like, oh, that's the emotional cue. And then that's the thing. And I was like, all right, I'm not hungry. I don't even like peanut butter and jelly. So I'm actually just disappointed. Let me just learn to sit with the disappointment.
There you go.
Let me just learn to be disappointed.
Yep.
And so I have a business. People sometimes, people don't want to work with me, or I get a refund request or whatever. Sometimes, and I'm sensitive. So I'll just be a little disappointed. And I was eating disappointment until I learned how to just be like, I was just like, oh, I'm just disappointed. I'll just be with myself disappointed. Although sometimes I still do like a peanut butter and jelly. It's not like, but it was a funny thing that you said, and that I was like, oh, I remember it when I noticed that.
Yeah. I mean, I
remember when I noticed it.
Yeah, I think so many, and that's an amazing acknowledgement on your part. So kudos to you for even getting to the place of acknowledging why am I doing this? And that you were able to move out of maybe the behavior of eating the peanut butter and jelly sandwich when you didn't really want it, need it, or desire it, but you were doing it to cope with something else. And you came up with, you realize it on your own. And the fact that you said, let me sit with this, that's what people struggle with, is I don't want to sit with those feelings, because when we sit and we're quiet, thoughts and emotions and memories might start percolating to the surface. And that's what we're afraid of. And that's what we have to do, is we have to walk towards that fear. And oftentimes my clients, I do it with them. So in a way, it's like I'm my hands on their shoulder, virtually speaking, or I'm holding their hand, say, come on, let's go. Let's go. You can do this. Let's walk towards it. And then they find, you know what? I don't really want to binge anymore. I'm purging, so to speak. I'm emotionally purging what's inside of me. And therein lies the answer. Okay. Yeah. I don't have that desire to really want to binge anymore or restrict food. It's just food just become food now.
Yeah, it's so juicy. So in my work, I'm typically working with people spending, and I'll tell you a quick story because I think it's so fascinating. So I have a client. We're finished our work together, but I had this woman who was a special ed teacher in a big city, and so all of the students in her classroom had behavioral issues. Like, they were there for their behavioral issues. So every single one of those kids was in her room because she was a master at handling, doing this work. And she said to me, when she hired me, she's like, last year, whenever a kid had an outburst, I would go and I would take one of the snacks that I bought for the kids. So I would eat like a little tiny bag of M&Ms, or I would eat a little tiny bag of cookies or whatever, peanuts or whatever she bought for the kids. And she said, and I would take the snack out to the hall for just a second. I would eat the snack and I would go back. And she was like, I gained like 45 pounds. And she said, so I recognized that I had to stop doing that. So when she became my client, it was because she'd had credit card debt, and she did the exact same thing. She said, when so-and-so would do such a thing, I would go onto my phone for just a second, and I would go to Amazon or I'd go to Macy's and I would just buy something. And then I would come back to my classroom, and that was it. So I was like, oh, that's the same trigger, the same stress response. It was just a different kind of consumption. And yeah. So when we worked together, that was actually the truth of it, because she was like, oh, I remember so-and-so peed on the floor. like one of her students peed on the floor, and she was like, and then I came home to an Instapot that I cannot remember buying. And then she was like, oh, but then I remember one of the kids had a behavior, peed on the floor on purpose. And then she was like, I came home to an Instapot on my front porch that I didn't want, I didn't need. And it was on my credit card statement, and I was like, oh, so fascinating.
It's all intertwined. It's all intertwined why we do the things we do. I mean, I talk about retail therapy. So there you go. It's retail therapy. And we kind of say it jokingly. And, because this is, your wheelhouse, you can get yourself into a lot of trouble when you use retail as your therapy versus actually seeing a therapist to talk about why we behave the way we do, what's really going on inside of us. So whether it be shopping and racking up your credit card or just eating and eating and eating to, eat our feelings about the stress we had that day at work because we work, maybe it sounds like a behavioral mod school where kids are acting out. That's a stressful job. You got to have an outlet there. And so I get the stress. I get all the stress, of course. I think all of us are compassionate and empathic towards a stressful job like that. The only thing that I would say is pivot. And you would say maybe rather than buying the Instapot, I would say rather than maybe going and eating a whole box of Cheez-Its, which you're going to feel crap about yourself later. Let's find another way for you to cope with or manage a stress in your life. There are lots of other ways that you can manage that stress. It's there. It's real. It's legitimate. But let's just find another way for you to cope where tomorrow morning you don't wake up going, I effing ate that whole, thing of ice cream. Why did I do that? So here we go. And then you wake up the next day and you just feel badly about yourself. There's all that noise and there's guilt. Why'd you do that? You have no self-control. Now we're going into shame. I mean, I wouldn't wish that on anyone, that sort of, mental anxiety and just the criticism that we do in our heads, which you would never know. You'd never know by seeing people at work or seeing your girlfriends what they're dealing with unless they told you. We're all walking around with these thoughts in our heads.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So what else are some other things that you work on with your clients to help them kind of move through this? So we talked a little bit about just noticing the trigger, like how it comes, learning to sit with your feelings. Is there anything else that people can do to start to really rewire that, or not rewire, but re-record those scripts?
Notice you're triggered. I think that's really important. I think one thing that's also important is for everybody to look at how they're spending their daily lives. And for many of us, maybe snacking or grazing on a lot of food and we're not really hungry has become a habit. I know that I've been guilty of that myself, that we get into these habits that don't really work well for us. Like I got into a really habit of eating spoonfuls of peanut butter because I love peanut butter too. And I'll just sit there and lean against the counter. And I know not to do this because I counsel my clients to do it. So I'll tell you, I do it too. I might just know it a little bit quicker. Leaning up against a kitchen sink with a big jar of peanut butter and I'm putting spoonfuls. That's not a good habit and I've broken it. So be mindful of and start to acknowledge what are your habits. Maybe every day around one or two, you notice that you start to drag a little bit, your blood sugar goes down, and there you are with your head in the refrigerator looking for what I can eat, or you're in the pantry going, what chips can I grab right now? And we don't pour them out into a bowl. We tend to just eat them right out of the bag. So that's a habit that many, many of us have gotten ourselves into that we can change pretty quickly, just becoming aware of it and acknowledge what habits you're doing in your life and start to move out of it. So that's a big one. I help a lot of people around that. That's what people come to coaching for because they're not aware of their habits and their routines. And I help them get aware of them. Then we change the behavior. That's another one. Look at your habits. So number one, look at your triggers. Number two, look at the habits in your everyday life. Number three, I want people to start really becoming more aware of who they're following and who they're looking at on social media. That compare and despair game is not a good one. And I don't want anybody, if I could wave a magic wand for all your listeners, I would wave the wand of you are no longer going to compare and despair your body over people you follow on social media. If you feel badly about the way you look because of people you're following on, especially Instagram and TikTok, I'd ask you to unfollow them.
When I started really shifting my body image, what I did was I followed a whole bunch of plus size models and I could see with my own eyes that they were beautiful. Like I could see that they were just magnificent the way that they were. And it was for me anyways, that was the thing. Like, it's like I could see the beauty outwards before I could see it in the mirror. But I followed all of these plus size models for quite some time. So when I was scrolling through my feed, I could be like, oh, there's this beautiful, like, and it was just a different version of beautiful women. Cause like, whatever, you're going to see beautiful women on all of the social medias, on all of the advertisements, on all of everything. Like the women are just magnificent. They're just beautiful creatures. So you're just going to see beautiful women. But I had noticed that all of the women that I was seeing like being beautiful were all not like me. And so I followed all of these plus size models, and that was a big changer for me because I just came to see them as beautiful. Like I was just like, oh, look at, she's gorgeous, and then I was like, oh,
there you go. And then the algorithm sees that you're following these beautiful plus size women, and the algorithm shows you more of these beautiful women, and so that's important. So I would tell everybody, please stop following people who make you feel bad about yourself, and please stop following people who are showing you what they eat in a day. I'm sorry. I just have such a criticism about that, because what do? We go, I don't eat that. I don't have that. I don't have the money to buy that expensive protein powder. I really I'm getting a little tired of people on Instagram, these influencers, and yes, we kind of want to know what they're eating in a day, but then we go to the place of, well, okay, that's really hard. I don't do that. Or maybe I don't want to fully do that. Is there something wrong with me that I don't want to do that? Or, do I have to do I have to eat everything? You don't want to eat like them. Maybe you don't like to eat chicken breasts. Maybe you don't like broccoli, maybe you don't find your own way. All right. So really, really, really pay attention to your social media, the people you're following. And the last thing I would say, which I think is really important, is remember, we got to stop comparing our 40-year-old body to our 18-year-old, 23, 25-year-old body. Okay, that's really important, because I find that what women tell me all the time is, well, I'm 45 years old and I have those genes from before I had my first baby. I can't get back in them, and I'm really pissed off that I can't get back in those genes, or I can't get back in my genes when I was 30. Throw those freaking genes out and start to love on yourself the way you are now today. We are comparing ourselves to the person we were when we were in our, maybe it was our ideal time. Maybe we're like, yeah, but I was going to like Crunch Fitness, or I was going to whatever it is, I was doing like 5 days a week because I didn't have kids and I could do it after work. Well, your life has changed, because maybe now you live in another part of the country where, I don't know, you can't get to that gym anymore, or you have children and you're running around like a crazy person, or you're going through a terrible divorce, or you're taking care of your aging parents. You weren't doing that 10 years ago. You're doing it now, and it's hard now. That's what I think we do, is we do compare ourselves to our older bodies.
We do that even though we didn't even like it then. That's like that was another thing that that was another thing that like really hit it for me. I was like, I'm not going to spend the rest of my life feeling less than, only to see that I was magnificent.
Always like, down the road. Are now. Yes.
Yeah. So it's like, like that was another big shift for me, because I just remember like looking at pictures where I was definitely, I remember looking at the pictures when I was, like when they came out, right? Like, so when they were taken, when I saw them, and being like, yeah,
exactly. Right,
and now here I am later, and I'm like, yuck. What?
Yeah.
So silly.
Exactly. I looked so good back then. Are you kidding me? And you still look amazing now. And remember that, right? And the final thing I want to say about all of this is it's always easy for me to give tips and sometimes hacks on, how to move out of this poor body image that so many of us go through. But I have to say this, it is nuanced. So when I'm working with my clients, everybody comes to me from a different place, right? So these are general tips. So if you work with me, you will see that I'm working with you, the individual. My clients who come to me, some people, they've got a lot of body image issues around what they heard as a child. So maybe that's the focus of a lot of messaging. So with them, I'm going to be doing more of cognitive behavioral therapy, a little bit of dialectical behavioral therapy. I'm pulling in my certifications as a therapist into my coaching world, and I'm coaching people on what they need. Some people don't have, early childhood family of origin issues, and they just have these really crappy habits that they've gotten into, and they know it. And they're like, I need help changing my habits because I've got like a bad habit of doing this every day. Like I talked about the peanut butter, or I'm in this not great routine. So that's what they need. So it's different for everybody what they need. Some people come into me and they say, Anna, like I am obsessed with Instagram. I can't help it. I'm obsessed. Like I'm obsessed with those influencers. I want those bodies. And why can't I get that? I'm so frustrated, but I can't help it. So for them, we work on starting to bring down their social media exposure. So I just want to say that it's nuanced and it's different for each individual who is looking for help around body image.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And the same thing's true with my work, where I can put general things out there. And then when I work with clients, we're looking at their transactions. And it's such a valuable point. I love it. All right. So tell us where can people find out more about you? I know you have a podcast. Like, what do you offer? Where can people find you? Give us the shameless plugs.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So you can go to my website, annamarcolin.com, and there's coaching packages in there. I've got a 6-week coaching package for people who really they want to do 6 weeks, and they want to work hard, they want to work fast, and they are looking for maybe 1 or 2 specific things around body image they want to work on. I've got then a monthly one that continues after that for people like, okay, I'm not done. And then there's also a high ticket coaching program, which is one-on-one with me. And that's for people who want to work with me and they want me 3, 4, 5 days a week. So that's a high ticket one. There are people who are like, no, I need to talk. I need someone to call me for like 10 or 15 minutes on a Tuesday morning when my trigger time is coming up. So there's the high ticket offer in there as well. You can listen to the podcast, the Badass Confidence Coach podcast, where that's all things mental health and wellness. This week's episode is with myself, and my husband comes in, and he's like my co-podcaster. And this week is talking about the sting of rejection. How do you deal with and recover from the sting of being rejected? So we're talking about all kinds of mental health and wellness issues. And then I also have amazing guests on. Bree, you're coming on, talking about
I can't even wait.
Yeah. So we're talking about, I had somebody on last week talking about how to think quicker when you're put on the spot, how to give a talk at a eulogy, how to give a eulogy, how to give a toast at a cocktail party, how to speak up in a staff meeting. I mean, he was an amazing guest, Matt Abrahams. Then I've got people like you coming on talking about money mindset. So the podcast is a great way for free to get amazing tips to improve your life. So, and then I'm in Instagram and TikTok, Ask Anna Marcolin. You can follow me there. And I'm also providing some good information on there. So there's lots of ways to see me. There's lots of ways to view me and to develop that know, like, and trust factor. And then you can always email me, hello@annamarcolin.com. And I'm happy to converse with you, get on a call with you, and just help you out in any way that I can.
Oh, so good. I love it. All right. So there's the podcast, the website, the TikTok, the Instagram. Yeah. Beautiful. So you could find Anna on all the places that you would go on your phone. Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. So thank you so much for coming. I love all of the things that you shared. And I think that people are going to just be moving through, because I think body image is just like, we're just ready to let it go. We could just be having way more fun.
Absolutely.
With our energy.
Don't need to be in this sort of mental angst anymore. No more of it. We can move past it. All of us can.
Love it. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And to everybody listening, thank you. I appreciate you. I love you very much. And I will see you next week. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for having me.
It was my pleasure and joy to talk with you today. Thank you for listening. If you found value in our conversation, I kindly ask you to share the show with a friend who deserves to unleash her financial power. Your feedback is so, so valuable to me. So please take a moment to leave a review. Together, we can amplify the message and bring more money into the hands of good women. For ongoing guidance and unwavering support on your financial journey, I invite you to join the Cash Confident community. Visit www.cashconfident.com/join to become part of our powerful community of women, where we uplift and inspire one another to reach new heights of financial success. Remember, you possess the power to shape your financial destiny, and with the Cash Confident podcast and the support of our remarkable community, you are unstoppable. Embrace your financial power, create the life you desire, and let's ignite a movement of cash confident women who are transforming the world $1, one decision at a time.